Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Tim Sylvia to defeat Randy Couture. He's too tall. Randy's not even going to be able to reach him. And I'm here to talk about UFC on ESPN 69, Usman versus Buckley. The whole card. Okay, opening up the card, we have Philip Rowe versus Loosa. And by the way, this is definitely not opening up the card. This is just what Sherdog has listed as the first fight. I don't know what happened there with my voice, but I think my dick fell off. Either way, I'm going with Loosa for this fight. I'm taking him winning by decision, but I'm not betting on it. As you can see here, hopefully you can see here, the odds are razor thin. They're actually widening a little bit. It's closer the last time I looked at it. But even then, I still was not interested in placing a bet on my prediction because I'm not too confident. I got Loosa winning by decision, and the real basis for the prediction is athleticism. I think Loosa is the faster man. I think he'll keep himself safe from the danger of Philip Rowe on the feet. And I think his athleticism, if he keeps himself safe from the jiu-jitsu of Philip Rowe, can also help him win the ground battle too, getting on top of Philip Rowe. And Loosa, his durability is a big part of my prediction. He's got 4 decision losses. That's it. He's never been finished. Unless he has Brian Battle. He might have something to say about that. But yeah, he's never been finished. And he's fought dangerous guys. Gabriel Bonfim, Mornir Lazez, maybe not as much as Jack Della Maddalena, who's pretty fucking dangerous. And Jack had him hurt. So did this guy, Jonathan Thompson. And I just think Loosa is tough as all fuck. So I'm taking him to keep himself safe from Philip Rowe and be the faster man in general, the better athlete. I think Loosa can beat him to the punch, despite the height and the reach and the horse shit. I think, again, he's the faster man. And Philip Rowe doesn't have the best takedown defense. I think he's maybe a little too confident in his jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I think Loosa wins the takedown battle, should he choose to go that route. And there's points to be scored for him there. Loosa is the guy who's won a decision. I mentioned his 4 losses. He's also got 4 decision victories. Philip Rowe doesn't have any decision victories. Not that that's a strong basis for a prediction, but it's something. Every now and then you got to kind of plug records into each other. I'm aware Rowe could have easily won a decision over Neil Magny, and he had that fight right here with Nico Price, a round 3 finish. Yeah, that could have gone the distance. He's definitely capable of winning a decision. He's a very talented guy, but he is one of those nets. He's a striker, and he's looking to catch in his net on the ground with his jiu-jitsu, but he's not Mr. Top Game positional, in-your-face pressure, aggressiveness guy. And I think Loosa is going to be leading the dance. He's going to be the faster man, and he's going to get a decision. Philip Rowe was knocked out, but it was in his debut back in 2014. Okay, so he's going pretty strong. He's been hurt since, but he's always stood tall. Nico Price probably came the closest to getting him out of there. But yeah, I think Philip Rowe, despite the early finish and despite being a little older at 34, I think he's in great shape, and I'd be surprised if Loosa finished him. The finishing side is all with Philip Rowe in this fight. I mentioned he hasn't won a decision. It's because he's got 10 finishes, 6 by knockout and 4 by submission in his 10 victories. So yeah, he's the more dangerous guy. But I do think Loosa is that durable where he'll be able to keep himself safe, and that fast where he'll be able to mitigate the shit coming his way and also win the positional battle. So Loosa by decision is the pick. I'll look for the props and see if there's something, but in general, I'm staying away from this. Next up, we have Jamie Lynn Horth versus Vanessa Demopoulos in what should be the first fight of the evening. I think it will be. My prediction here is Jamie Lynn Horth wins, and I've got her winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is size and strength and physicality and all that horse shit. Yeah, Vanessa Demopoulos, she's just too small. She's a very capable fighter, very tough fighter as well. Even though Jamie Lynn Horth's gotten a lot of nice, impressive late finishes throughout her career over decent, if not good, competition, I still think she can't finish Vanessa. Although I'm still probably going to put a few pennies on the late finishes. But I do think she bullies Vanessa though, and I do think Vanessa makes it to the final bell, and it's another fight that's lost because she's up against it physically, which she wasn't against Talita Alencar in her last fight. I think Talita was smaller than her, shorter than her anyway, but yeah, she ripped her to the mat and dominated her pretty much. Jamie Lynn Horth, she's a well-rounded girl, but in general, she wants to get on top of you. That's where the majority of these TKO finishes come. Not all of them. She does have a knockout, the body kick here over Jade Masson Wong, who's a good fighter. But yeah, Jamie Lynn Horth, I think in this fight, she's going to want to tie up Vanessa and get on top of her. Jamie's lost twice, both in the UFC here, and they're both to good fighters. Veronica Hardy beat her by split decision. That was a fight where Jamie turned it up, but it was a little too late, and she lost a tight one. And against Miranda Maverick, she lost because she was up against a physical monster, and that's Jamie Lynn Horth likes to make fights physical, and she was not going to win that battle against Maverick. But here against Vanessa Demopoulos, I think she is going to get her type of fight where once she ties up with Vanessa, gets her down, and starts wearing on her, she's going to end up bullying her. So I got Jamie Lynn Horth winning. I got her winning by decision. And as you can see with the odds here, it's not worth it, and I'm staying away from this. Like I said, maybe I'll waste a few pennies on props, but in general, this is not worth it for me. Vanessa Demopoulos coming back at plus 350. That is enticing. I think Vanessa's very skilled. She's got durability for days as well, which is the starting point. But I still haven't convinced myself to put a bet on her. Maybe I'll look for the plus points, but even that wouldn't be something I'm sure of. I don't know if I don't know if I expect her to win around here. I'm going with Horth. Next up, we have Jose Ochoa taking on Cody Durden. My prediction for this fight is Cody Durden wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is there's levels to this game, son. And you about to find out, kid. That whole thing. UFC levels. I've been wrong about that before, but yeah, that's the basis for the prediction. Even though he's got 7 losses, Cody, they're all high profile losses, and he's also got about a half dozen high profile wins that would mean more than a win over Jose Ochoa. Matt Schnell, Jake Hadley, Charles Johnson, Arichi Lang, JP Bays, Carlos Mota. He's done enough in the UFC where, yeah, he is my pick to win. The technical basis is I think Cody Durden can be a wrestler that Jose Ochoa has not felt yet. I don't think Jose Ochoa is too battle tested. I don't think he's the most tested guy. He's got a record of 7-1 now. And I think Cody Durden will be able to test him in the wrestling department more than anybody he's fought. And of course, Cody Durden, he's a 15-minute warrior as well. He's got a lot of great traits as a fighter. He's been vulnerable at times. He's been finished a bunch, but mostly by submission. And Jose Ochoa is not the biggest submission threat, even though he got in his last victory a nice standing anaconda choke over this guy, Juscelino Pantoja. Anaconda choke standing. And against Lonir Kavanaugh, man, I thought he could have had him hurt and went after a rear naked choke at the end of round 2. Thought he stole the round as well, but whatever. The point is, yeah, there's probably more than meets the eye with the whole submission game, of course. But without him being an established submission artist, and with that being Cody's biggest weakness, I think it's favorable for Cody Durden. On paper, he shouldn't get tapped by Jose Ochoa. Cody, he's 34 years old. At some point you got to start to worry about the mileage. I mean, he's had some rough fights, including his decision loss against Joshua Van, who got a huge victory 2 days ago. Joshua Van's a fucking monster, so there's no shame in losing to him. But yeah, that fight looked rough for Cody Durden. He wasn't knocked out and he wasn't submitted. That was good, but he was beaten up pretty badly in that fight. And before that, he was knocked out and submitted in round 2 against Bruno Silva and Tagir Umbekov. Again, despite some negative momentum for Bruno, having lost to Joshua Van 2 days ago, these are a better class of fighter, far and above somebody like Jose Ochoa. Look, of course, Jose Ochoa is just getting going. He could turn out to be better than these guys, but certainly right now I would pick both of those guys to beat him. And even though Cody Durden is considered beneath both those guys, having lost to them, I don't know why the fuck I'm hung up on these two guys instead of fucking Jake Hatley or whoever else. There's a bunch of awesome fighters on his resume. But the point is, Cody Durden's been mixing it up with them, and I just put him above Jose Ochoa, who's 0-1 in the UFC. His one loss does come in the UFC, and it was a really close fight, a good fight against Lonier Kavanaugh. I don't know how to say his name, Lone Kavanaugh, whatever. But he definitely lost. I think he took the fight on short notice as well. But regardless, Kavanaugh was the sharper man throughout that fight and down the stretch. But Jose Ochoa was tough as fuck, walking down the more technical striker, and at points had him in trouble. Like I said, he went for a rear naked choke, and he set that up with some nice body shots. And he also got a beautiful body shot finish here in round 2 earlier in his career over this guy, Neto Castro. He had him hurt with a body shot, and then a few strikes later, he went back there, stabbed him right to the liver with a front kick, I think, and knocked him out. But yeah, he doesn't have the deepest resume. You know, it's good for him to get some early round 2 finishes. Got a nice head kick here of this guy, Omar Torres. That's one on YouTube. But still, he's not battle tested. Most of his wins are in round 1, and I just have to favor Cody Durden. Cody Durden, he's a well-rounded guy, plenty of finishes every which way. And having seen Jose Ochoa only lose once and him showing a lot of great traits in defeat, I'll go with Cody winning by decision. And yeah, wrestling will be a part of that for sure. So yeah, Cody Durden wins with the wrestling and the grinding. I've already bet on him. He's plus 150 here. I'm not married to decision. Again, I don't have the firmest grasp on Jose Ochoa, even though I've seen every bit of footage I can get my hands on. But yeah, he's only lost once. It was a decision, so the pick is decision. Next up, we have Cameron Smotherman stepping up on short notice to replace Charles Jourdain and take on Ricky Simón. My prediction for this fight is Ricky Simón wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. Sure, the fact that he's probably in better shape helps, but that's what I would have been predicting anyway. And I don't know what the odds look like, so I could end up betting on Cameron Smotherman at the end of all this. But I am picking Ricky to win, and I'll wait to see what the odds look like if I look to place a bet. Cameron's been beaten 5 times, twice by knockout, 3 times by decision. Fuck. Missed a chance to say thrice. But yeah, he was knocked out twice within a minute pretty much. Charalampos Gregorio knocked him out on the Contender Series in a minute, and some other asshole knocked him out in 13 seconds. So even though he's only 27 years old, and I'm sure he's generally healthy, even for a guy that's suffered knockouts, he still suffered knockouts, and that might hit the surface moving forward. And you know what? Ricky Simón's not the most likely guy to knock him out, but Ricky Simón is coming off one of the best knockout of his career, and probably my favorite knockout of the year. I love when the underdog shuts down the big favorite and the youngster, and that's what he did to Javid Basharat, and he knocked him out cold, which was the last thing I expected there. So Ricky Simón might be able to cash in on a dicey chin and knock him out, and if he does, probably happens in 13 seconds. But I still think Ricky wins a decision. Cameron Smotherman, He's got 3 losses by decision as well. And yeah, I'm going to be looking at Cameron Smotherman because I feel like, even though I'm going to delete the portion of the video there, I feel like you saw all the shit I just said about him and Charles Jourdain. I spent a lot of time talking about Ricky Simone, but now it's like, whatever. You guys know who he is. Now it's like, especially with Cameron taking the fight on short notice, I feel like the more pertinent information is talking about Cameron Smotherman. But yeah, I'll touch on Ricky too. But Cameron Smotherman, he's got 3 losses by decision. 1 to Circuit City in his last fight. Circuit City is a very talented fighter. And I actually picked against Circuit City there. I picked Cameron to beat him. And that was based on Cameron Smotherman coming in on short notice, just like this, and beating Jake Hadley, who has since gone on to get a nice twister, I believe, in the PFL. But yeah, Cameron Smotherman, that win over Jake Hadley, that was really impressive, especially on short notice and in his UFC debut. There were no jitters or any of that horse shit. But still, he's got other losses by decision, actually way far back against this guy Shane Torres and Christian Strong. But he's also got victories that were pretty dicey in here, more recent fights. Against this guy Ryan Hughes, I thought Cameron won the fight, but still, he allowed the guy to slow him down. He had a win over this guy Casey Jones. It was another close one, and the guy was able to hit some grappling on him. I don't even mean hit takedowns. I just know he forced some grappling on him from some funky positions. And I think, this fight against Mando Gutierrez. Mando Gutierrez did take him down. He did take him down and mount him. He controlled him, had a lot of success. And then Cameron, in a great showcase of his traits, battled back when he was down big and forced a stoppage with a flying knee knockout. He might have gotten a TKO anyway, and certainly at the minimum would have gotten a 10-8 round in round 3, which is what he needed. But without any of that, he got it done with one shot, essentially, a flying knee, and knocked him out. It was a great victory. He's also got a nice 3rd round finish over this guy, Ryan Mandala, with a Darce choke. And that one actually is a Darce choke. That guy's not the greatest fighter. You know, he's not the most battle-tested guy, but he's shown good traits. And aside from maybe that durability that I was talking about before with the 2 knockout losses, but he's still not the most dominant force. I do think he's leveled up. The guy I saw lose or have these close fights with Casey Jones and Ryan Hughes, that is not a guy that should be beating Jake Hadley. And that, especially on short notice and all the rest of it. So yeah, Cameron Smotherman's definitely got upside, and he's a man now, and he's in the UFC. So he's leveled up in a lot of ways, but there's levels to this game, son. You about to find out, kid. Ricky Simone's 21-6. He's been in the UFC since 2000 and fuck. What is this? 2018, where he submitted a guy named Merab Dwalishvili. And he got him out of there with a guillotine choke in the 16th minute of a 15-minute fight, because it was horseshit. But still, Ricky's an amazing fighter. He's beaten Merab, Montel Jackson, Ronnie Yaya, Ray Borg. I mean, just look at all this shit. The Jax Shore victory, and of course, topping it off with the Javed Basharat knockout. He's beaten such a great level of competition that I have to pick him here to beat Cameron Smotherman. And looking at his losses, there's no obvious decline. He did get TKO'd by Song Yadong in round 5. That was Song Yadong, who's one of the top fighters in the world, beating him up for whatever, 21 minutes, 22 minutes almost. And he was knocked out by Song Yadong's trainer and coach, Uriah Faber, which may not have been the cleanest stoppage, but it was one hell of a fucking moment, I got to be honest. But still, in general, I think Ricky Simone is very durable. And, of course, his 2 other losses in his recent string of losses here are to Mario Batista, who's 8-0 and just fraud-checked Patchy Mix. He's not a fraud. That's a horseshit term. Patchy's already done enough outside the UFC. But his other loss to Vinicius Oliveira, there's no shame in that. He didn't look great. His wrestling was shut down. But Vinicius Oliveira, I think he's the dark horse of the division. he's the guy to beat Marab. Don't quote me on that, but he could be. He's definitely the dark horse, the guy that no one sees coming. But yeah, Ricky Simón, he's still in his athletic prime. He's only 32 years old. Like I said, his last fight was maybe the best win in his career over Javid Basharat, but it still wasn't, a showcase of everything, the wrestling, I should just say, and the Ricky Simón that we know. But I still think the Ricky Simón that we know is still there, and he's going to be too much for Cameron Smotherman. Maybe he's too much for him on the feet. Again, maybe that could happen, but I think it's going to be on the ground. I think Ricky Simone's going to next level him and win by decision. There are no odds, but I'll see what they say. Next up, we have Malcolm Wellmaker versus Chris Moutinho. My prediction for this fight is Wellmaker wins, and I've got him winning by knockout in round 1. Having said that, let's pull up the odds here. Chris Moutinho is an 8-1 underdog. That warrants a bet. And honestly, I think if he does win, he drowns Wellmaker down the stretch after getting his ass kicked. So there'll be a few sprinkles on some long shot props at 1,000,000-1. But the prediction is Malcolm Wellmaker wins, and I got him winning by knockout. And even though Chris Moutinho stood tall against Sean O'Malley for most of the fight, at the end he ended up getting finished. I still think this one ends early, and that's why I've played the under a round and a half. I think Malcolm Wellmaker is very dangerous, and yeah, I'll go through his record. It's not all finishes, but I think here he's in his athletic prime, and after seeing what he did to Cameron Simon and hearing him talk about it, he wants to knock him out unconscious like Sean O'Malley wasn't able to do. I've got Malcolm Wellmaker knocking him out in round 1. Malcolm, he's 9-0. 5-2-2, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions, 2 decisions. His 2 decisions are a split and a majority decision in a 3-rounder and a 5-rounder, but I thought he won both fights. He was deducted a point against this guy Taylor Moore, who's a tough journeyman, really tough guy, and he made that a nice grimy fight that ended up going to a majority decision, but yeah, Malcolm definitely won. And this guy Zakaria Kamara, that's a split decision, but I thought Malcolm definitely got the better of him, and he took over in the end with his grappling down the stretch, and that was definitely the difference, at least on my scorecard, and probably 2 of the judges. But everything else is a finish, and of course, in the last year, he's gotten 3 knockouts, 2 inside the UFC/Contender Series, knocking out this guy Adam Bromhold, and which was a beautiful knockout. And of course, Cameron Simon in his official UFC debut. Cameron Simon, who may be cut, but I bet if he is cut from the UFC, we'll see him back in the UFC, because that guy definitely has talent. Chris Moutinho, he may not have so much talent, to be honest. He's a tough guy and whatever, but he's really up against it physically and technically in most fights. He's on a nice streak here, 5-fight winning streak, beating some underrated guys, especially this guy Johnny Campbell, who actually beat him. Johnny Campbell TKO'd him from side control, and then he got Johnny Campbell back and beat him down over the course of 2 rounds. I believe they each knocked each other down in their victories as well. But Johnny Campbell is a journeyman. He's got some impressive victories, Henry Corrales, but he's definitely not UFC caliber. And when Chris Moutinho was last fighting UFC caliber guys, it was Sean O'Malley, as you see here, the round 3 finish, even though Sean was very comfortably winning that fight, and Guido Canetti. Not Guido. I'm the Guido, but that's Guido Canetti. And yeah, Guido was just too much for him. Knocked him out in 2 minutes, just hurt him and kept hurting him and teed off on him and yada, yada, yada. And that's the thing. Chris Moutinho, even though he's tough, he's got 6 losses. All 6 are by finish. I mentioned the Johnny Campbell fight and the 2 UFC losses. Tony Gravely also got him out of there in round 4. Gravely, I believe he's still in the UFC, even though we haven't seen him in about 7 years. But yeah, and then before that, he got caught in 2 guillotine chokes 7-8 years ago. Chris Moutinho, he's definitely being brought in here to lose. And that is what I'm picking to happen as I check out Tony Gravely's record briefly. He doesn't have a fight booked. But yeah, Chris Moutinho, he's tough. He's gotten nice late finishes, as you see here in the stretch. Only one of them in round 5, the other 4 in rounds 2 or 3. So at such long odds, I'm anxious to throw something on the props. But I expect big things from Malcolm Wellmaker, and I expect Chris Moutinho. I expect every fight of his in the UFC to be a losing fight in which he's a sacrificial lamb, just the way it is, uh, which is why I'm a dumbass for wasting even sprinkles on him. But the odds are the odds. Malcolm Wellmaker's the pick. The under is the main play, and certainly under 2.5 rounds, which I think will be 3-1 or whatever shittier odds. That'll be something I'll play with confidence and maybe put sprinkles if they're worth it on Wellmaker by knockout or early finish or whatever, but probably not. He's a fucking gigantic favorite. It just wouldn't make sense. Next up, we have Court McGee taking on Michael Chiesa. My prediction for this fight is Michael Chiesa wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is I like the way he looked in his last fight against Max Griffin. I thought that was a really good bounce back fight and one that told me a lot more than his bounce back fight against Tony Ferguson, or the ghost of the shell of Tony Ferguson. But yeah, Court McGee is a really tough guy to submit. He's been battle tested throughout like 3 generations of the UFC welterweight division, and nobody's been able to submit him. Even as an amateur or in exhibition fights on The Ultimate Fighter, he's never been tapped. Having said that, I said the same shit about Max Griffin in his last fight, Chiesa's last fight, and Chiesa forced him to tap in round 3. Chiesa definitely has the best chance of winning this fight, and it is by submission. I think that's far and away the best chance. Court's been knocked out a few times, and as of late, a few times getting knocked out by Matt Brown and Jeremiah Wells. But I still think Michael Chiesa lacks a lot of their danger. He's just not in the same class on the feet. So it would have to be that miraculous, lucky shot, not to dismiss it before it even happens. But still, as for Court getting a finish, I actually think he's better off getting a submission here against Michael Chiesa rather than a knockout. Even though he'd probably be looking to play the striker in this fight. But Chiesa's never been knocked out, not legitimately anyway, and he's been submitted a bunch. Court McGee, historically not known as the greatest submission artist, but he put away a few guys by sub early on in his UFC career. Let's see, back in fucking 98, was it? Ryan Jensen in 2010 was his last submission win. And then in his last fight, he got Tim Means out of there. Neck cranked him in October in round 1, and I believe retired him, although I don't know. So yeah, maybe there's something there, but it's a long shot. I've got Chiesa winning the wrestling battle. I got Chiesa being the better athlete, the younger athlete. He's way down there at 37 compared to a 40-year-old Court McGee here. And I think Chiesa, again, with that last fight, the way he looked against Max Griffin and being able to put him away, that was a great bounce back fight, and I think Chiesa is going to be a little too much for Court. I think he's going to crowd him, even though Court's strong and really comfortable fighting in the clinch. Chiesa does have leverage, and of course, Chiesa's the more likely guy to take him down or even turn the corner, trip him, and take his back and win with grappling. So I've got Chiesa winning. Again, he submitted Max Griffin, which I did not expect, and I said the same exact shit I said about Court McGee here. So with his danger, a submission is always possible. Again, just ask Beneil Dariush. But I've got him winning a decision here against Court McGee. And despite all that shit I said about finishes and whatever, my second prediction, if I'm wrong, would be Court McGee winning a decision as well. So yeah, Chiesa's the pick. Now let's look at the odds. He's way too big of a favorite, way too big at minus 345. I don't know if I can bet on that, but I put something on the over because, again, my top 2 predictions are these guys win by decision. But in the state they're in, 40 and approaching 40, and with recent chin issues, and of course, Chiesa being a submission monster. In general, I'm not married to the over. So a small bet will suffice, and I'll wait for the props to see if there's something else. Next up, we have Paul Claig versus Rodolfo Bellato. These two guys were supposed to fight a few weeks ago, and then Rodolfo Bellato had gonorrhea or something. I don't know. Now, he had herpes, and the fight was rebooked here. My prediction for this fight is Rodolfo Bellato wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by knockout in round 2. And the basis for the prediction is Paul Craig's a tricky fighter, but it's only one trick, really. He's a one-trick pony. I mean, he's got a few tricks, I guess, but they're all grappling. And Rodolfo Bellato's a good grappler himself, but he's definitely the better striker, the better force on the feet. And even though he's been knocked out twice, and you got to watch out for that, not so much in this matchup against Paul Craig. Both of his knockout losses are to, both of Bellato's knockout losses are to Vitor Petrino, who, as you know, is a fucking monster. So it's forgivable there. And again, Paul Craig does not duplicate that guy's power in any way. And Paul Craig, his losses, even though they are to a generally great class of competition here, the worst being Bo Nickel perhaps, but then a bunch of contenders throughout a few divisions, I still just in general don't trust his durability. I do think he can win if Rodolfo Bellato is not disciplined. I mean, Rodolfo Bellato was beaten nearly to death against Ihor Potieria before he finished the job and killed Potieria. But yeah, Potieria, not the highest level UFC guy, and that was a life and death war. He was also hurt against this guy, Murtaza Ali, and then ended up turning the tide and forcing a grimy fight and knocking the guy out. And yeah, in general, I do have doubts about his durability, but it's all with his chin. And again, Paul Craig is not the most likely guy to make that a thing. So yeah, I look at the odds here, and he's not as big of a favorite, I believe, as he was the last time, but it's still not enticing for me to bet on that. The under, however, I put something on that, but I can tell you really what I'll be looking for is under 2.5 rounds. I don't want to guess what that'll be at. Maybe minus 200, minus 250, something like that. That's usually about what it is when it's plus 100 for under 1.5 rounds. But it might be different with these guys because they're both, kill or be killed fighters. But for Paul Craig, with his odds being so long, of course, I'll put sprinkles on props that I think will hit. Submission would definitely be more likely than knockout, even though Rodolfo Bellato's a good grappler and he's never been submitted, only been knocked out. But I think Paul Craig winning down the stretch would be the way to go there for some sprinkles. I mean, he can certainly get it done in round 1, but like I said, Rodolfo Bellato, at least in the beginning of the fight, he's going to be minding his P's and Q's. If the fight degenerates into a war like Bellato versus Potieria or Paul Craig versus Shogun or something like that, Paul Craig is the more battle-tested guy, the seasoned vet, and it's not like he hasn't beaten fucking Andre Muniz and whoever the hell else. And Magomed Ankalaev and Kennedy Nzechukwu and fucking Nikita Krylov and Jamal Hill breaking his arm. Oh, yeah, he's a very dangerous guy. He's been there, done that. But again, he's very one-dimensional. And I think with a little bit of discipline, Rodolfo Bellato should win this fight. But even then, talking about discipline and slowing down and being patient, I still don't see this going the distance. I see Bellato minding his P's and Q's for a few minutes, but no doubt if he wins, I've got it being far and away a knockout before decision or submission. So yeah, that's the pick. Rodolfo Bellato, just like the last time. And the bet will be on the under, if not the knockout finish for Rodolfo Bellato. Next up, we have Umar C versus Alonzo Menifield. My prediction for this fight is C wins. Umar C, I've got him winning by decision. Even though a knockout is always possible. He's a big, dangerous guy. Even though he hasn't gotten that signature knockout in the UFC yet. Of course, Alonzo Menifield, he's gotten a few signature losses by knockout, two of which came somewhat recently. Carlos Olberg knocked him out maybe a year ago, and then Azamat Murzakanov knocked him out. And then years back, he was knocked out against Ovince St. Preux. Of course, the losses are all compounded with the fact that he's approaching 40. But Umar C, I'm still picking him to win by decision. He's a well-rounded guy, and I think he's going to be taking Alonzo to the mat. And no one's ever submitted Alonzo. I'm sure it can happen, but I've got Umar out wrestling him and out pointing him to a victory. And on the feet, Umar C, I think, is a really sharp athlete. Maybe not as dangerous punch for punch as Alonzo, but as for getting the knockout first, even though Alonzo has much better knockout power, let's say, with the chin and the age and the physicality of Umar C, I've got Umar C getting the first knockout as well. So I think he's got a lot of advantages here. I don't know about the fucking odds. Let's pull those up here. He's a gigantic favorite, 7-1. That is not pretty. Very tempting to bet on Menifield, and I'm here to tell you, I'm going to bet on Menifield. This is one of those, I'm picking this guy, but I'm betting on this guy. Menifield, right now, I should just bet on him at plus 500 because there's always a chance he gets the knockout. I would think his primary path to victory would be decision. But of course, he's also shown some good submission chops throughout his UFC career as well. Umar C's never lost, so there's no telling exactly what that's going to look like. But yeah, there's a chance Alonzo Menifield next levels him here. Alonzo's got a deep resume and all that horse shit on the other side of all that other horse shit I was just talking about with him approaching 40. But yeah, it's because he's got a lot of experience and there could be something there. Umar C hasn't seen and felt everything he's needed to feel, and I want to see how he is being the nail, getting his ass kicked. But still, gun to my head, is that going to happen? I don't think it's going to happen. I think Umar C is going to be the one doing the ass kicking. Umar C, he's got a nice decision victory over Da Woon Jung, which I fucking hate the ESPN app and the Fight Pass app, to be honest. I can't find this fight, although I think I found a UFC video game fight between the two, and that was pretty interesting. Although I think Da Woon Jung won. Either way, I've got Umar C because he did show in that fight that he can fight 15 minutes at the UFC level. And that was a good big step for him. It had been a few years since he'd been the distance. He's gotten a lot of finishes lately. And of course, the George Tuco Tokos fight. That was only one round. That was his UFC debut. So yeah, I just trust the upside with C. And that is the prediction. It's on the upside. But when I look at DraftKings, all the upsides with Alonzo Menifield. And that's probably where my bets will be placed. And I'm going to go with him winning by knockout in round one. Having said that, Cody Brundage is an 11-2 underdog, and I've already bet on him. He's plus 550. Cody Brundage, I've got a lot of doubts in him, which I'll get to, but he's an experienced guy with a lot of valuable victories. And Mansour Abdul Malik is an 8-0 fighter who's only seen the second round twice. He's seen it twice when it mattered. I'll give him that. And I like the way he's looked, where it looks like things could be going the other way for a brief moment. He turns things around, turns it up when he needs to, and he's been able to put these guys away. He's put everybody away. He's got 7 knockouts and 1 submission. The 2 fights I'm talking about here against Nick Klein and Wesley Schultz, who he beat on the Contender Series. Not that Schultz was turning the fight around, but he ended up, he got a nice positional advantage, and it looked like Mansour Abdul Malik was slowed down a bit and was taking a breather. But then, of course, he turned the fight around and stopped the fight within that same round. And then against Nick Klein, he had a dicey moment early, got hit with a big shot, a spinning elbow or spinning back elbow, I don't know. And he ended up getting hurt, definitely lost the round, but he did a good job throughout that round, I thought, defending takedowns and getting back up from Nick Klein before and after he was hurt. And in general, just being a really difficult guy to wrangle, which is definitely something Cody Brundage is going to be looking to do. And of course, in round 2, where he potentially could have been tired, he turned it up when he saw a vulnerable moment against Nick Klein and didn't let up and forced a finish. So far, he's batting 1,000. He's got every trait in the book. But again, he hasn't had a chance to show everything. He's 8-0, and he doesn't know what it feels like to lose, even as an amateur here. So, Mansur Abdul Malik is the pick, but Cody Brundage, despite being a breakable fighter, and I fucking hate saying that because I like Cody Brundage. I like every UFC fighter generally. I respect the fuck out of these guys, and I'd hate to call somebody breakable, but when you look at Cody Brundage's losses and wins, some of them, the no contests and whatever, compared to others, it's just in the disqualifications. There's something there. I don't know if he's the most mentally sound fighter. When the going gets tough, I think he gets going. The other way, though. But yeah, I think Cody Brundage does have enough valuable wins where it warrants a bet at these odds, even by disqualification here. It's a nice one over Jacob Malkoun. But yeah, slamming Zach Reese, TKOing Julian Marquez, even when Marquez almost turned the fight around and knocked him out. But Cody Brundage made good on what was generally a very good performance. Here he knocked out Tresean Gore. Gore's underrated. He got the guillotine over Dalcha Lunjambula. Cody Brundage is definitely a guy with a solid resume. He's got 11 wins and 6 losses. The 6 losses are all high profile, mostly high profile, but a lot of his 11 wins mean something as well. And they mean more than any one of Mansur Abdul Malik's victories. I think Cody Brundage's path to victory is outlasting Mansur Abdul Malik. I mean, if he could take him down, that'd be great. And Cody is a nice wrestler. But if he's having trouble dealing with the athleticism of Mansur Abdul Malik, taking him down and holding him down, I think Cody Brundage, his best course of action is in one way or another to drag this fight along and just bring him into round 3. And then maybe in round 3, you can turn it up where he's never felt that before. Although I'm sure he's been training like hell to feel what that's going to feel like. But yeah, Cody Brundage, that's a thing. He's not the most likely guy to outlast and make you pay and win down the stretch in a comeback. Again, I have not a lot of faith in his durability. The bet will be on Cody Brundage, despite all the shit I just said. And the pick is definitely Mansur Abdul Malik wins. And I've got him winning in round 1. Next up, we have Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. My prediction here is Barcelos wins. I'll go with him winning by decision, I guess. But in general, the basis for the prediction is he's got more ways to win. He's a well-rounded guy. I'd say he certainly gets the first submission between these two, and it probably happens in rounds 2 or 3. Raoni Barcelos is not, he doesn't have too many submission wins at all, but what few he has are meaningful. His last one was a comeback win in round 3 over Christian Quinones. And of course, he's the only guy to submit Chris Gutierrez as well inside the UFC way back. It's like fucking 6 years ago or whatever. But regardless, he gets the first sub. I think Raoni Barcelos, certainly if he, even without getting the sub, if his wrestling is there for him, and he is a wrestler first and foremost, if he can out-wrestle Cody, he can win the decision, of course, there. But even on the feet, I think he's in the points battle on the feet, and certainly also in the knockout battle. Cody Garbrandt's more dangerous than him. I'd probably give the first knockout to Cody Garbrandt, but it's just based on the fact that Raoni Barcelos is substantially older, 5 years older, and he's also been knocked out more recently, I believe, maybe, against Umar Nurmagomedov, which is forgivable. But on the flip side, Cody, despite all of his danger, he's been knocked out 4 times, and also against Jarrell Hodge as an amateur right here in round 3. But yeah, he's been knocked out 4 times in the UFC against incredible competition, champions and challengers. But he's still got a shaky chin. And I think if he fights long enough, it will come back to haunt him, and it could be in this fight. Barcelos isn't exactly Mr. Knockout these days, but he's a solid striker who's shown his knockout power inside the octagon, and he can definitely take out Cody Garbrandt. Garbrandt, I do think his best chance of winning, of course, is keeping it standing and minding his P's and Q's, protecting his chin. He's a very slick striker, and he's got one of the best victories in MMA history with this win over Dominic Cruz. But he's just not trustworthy these days. Since then, it's all been downhill. And even though I'd say Raoni Barcelos is worse than the guys he's lost to, every one of them I'd put Barcelos beneath him. But Barcelos is also better than the guys he's beaten. Kelleher, Trevin Jones, and Rafael Assunção. Again, I'm not including Dominic Cruz there. But yeah, it's tough to gauge exactly how this one will go. But in general, I feel like it should go Barcelos' way because he's got more ways to win. And even though there's doubt on both sides, Garbrandt's the guy that's been knocked out 4 times, 5 times if you include his amateur loss, and yada, yada, yada. All the shit I just said 2 or 3 times. So yeah, Barcelos is the pick. And as of yet, I have not bet on him. He's a minus, let me pull up the fucking odds here. He's minus 190. And Cody Garbrandt's coming back at plus 160, plus 160. Yeah, I haven't bet on it yet. And same with the under over. Who the fuck says the under over? The over under, almost a toss up there at 2.5 rounds. I do think this one, if you put a gun to my head, would go the distance. But of course, with all that doubt I expressed throughout this little video here, I don't think a finish would surprise me. Next up, we have Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. My prediction for this one is Petroski wins, and I'm going to go with him winning by round 3 submission. Although in general, a late finish or decision would be how Petroski wins, but I think he wins down the stretch by taking over. I do think this is one of those dichotomous fights where I will play both sides with the props. I think Shahbazyan's chance of winning is a knockout far and away, and I think it'd be much more likely to happen early in rounds 1 and 2, especially 1. And on the flip side, Petroski, even though he's a guy whose gas tank I've questioned in the past, coming into the UFC especially, I think his best chance of victory would be to drown Edmen Shahbazyan on the ground, which is how Edmen Shahbazyan's losses have come. I should probably just talk about them here. Here they are. He lost to Gerald Meerschaert, who, look, most guys that Edmen's beaten, I'd say, are a better class of fighter than Andre Petroski. They just are. They're better. They've been tested and they're top fighters. Not Meerschaert, though, because Gerald Meerschaert lost to Andre Petroski. And Meerschaert's the last guy to beat Shahbazyan. He had to take it from Shahbazyan for a good round and a half, but then he turned things around at the end of round 2 and got him out of there with a sub. Gerald Meerschaert is the king of the comeback sub, the 3rd round submission and the 2nd round submission. Andre Petroski is not exactly Gerald Meerschaert, but he's in Meerschaert's lane. And Shahbazyan, well, I'm talking about his losses here. Anthony Hernandez, Nassourdine Imavov, Jack Hermanson, Derek Brunson. We're talking contenders and title challengers moving forward, perhaps, with these guys. They're all monsters, but every one of these losses is him getting drowned on the ground. Round 3 against Brunson, round 2 against Nassourdine Imavov. Jack Hermanson wasn't able to finish him, but he was able to ground him and take over that fight. And, of course, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, who is Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. So that fight looked like that. But yeah, Petroski, I won't be slamming the props like I did with Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, but I still think the props need to be played. I've already played his money line, but even though he's won 3 consecutive decisions, Shahbazyan is not a great nail, especially when he's gassed. He's been finished down the stretch a bunch. And of course, Petroski got 2 round 3 submissions, or a TKO and a submission, to begin his UFC career, which I thought was a great look because coming into the UFC, the big question mark with him was his gas tank. Brian Battle here got him out of there with a ninja choke in round 2 on The Ultimate Fighter. Drowned him in round 2. And, of course, Aaron Jeffrey, who's a beast of a fighter outside the UFC, Canadian dude, he got him out of there in round 2. Beat him up in the clinch when Petroski got tired. So yeah, Petroski, I'm not saying he's past that. He's over the hump and he'll never get tired and get finished again. It might happen here in this fight. But here, I do think he's the better man down the stretch. That's the basis for my prediction, my bet, and the prop bets. He's won 3 decisions in a row. Maybe not over the best competition, but 3 solid fighters: Josh Frem, Rodolfo Vieira, and Dylan Butka. And I like the way he looked over the course of 15 minutes. And of course, not long before that, his last win was over Gerald Mearshard, another 15-minute fight, and Wellington Turman. And Petroski's shown he can be that round 3 fighter these days. And I think here, if he keeps himself safe on the feet, and especially if he's able to force some grappling, but even if he's not, I just think getting the fight down the stretch will help him. But especially if he is, I think he's going to overwhelm Shahbazyan down the stretch. So that's the pick, and will be the play. Can't wait for the props on this one. And again, I will play Shahbazyan by knockout or early knockout. I think Shahbazyan, the odds are tight enough where it should be worth it as a hedge, and I think that's his only path to victory. He's totally going to win by ninja choke now. Maybe he'll turn it over into a north-south. But yeah, Petroski is the pick. I'm going with the underdog, and he will get my money. Next up, we have in the co-main event, Miranda Maverick versus Rose Namajunas. My prediction for this fight is Miranda Maverick wins, and I've got her winning by decision. And the basis for the prediction is, first of all, she's really durable. And first of all, I should say, I'll guarantee this goes the distance, which is why I should really just be betting on the over at dog shit minus 500 odds. But I do favor Miranda in this fight. Of course, I've got her winning by decision, but I do favor Miranda. The basis for me favoring her is her durability, her well-rounded skills. I think she could handle herself on the feet, even though Rose probably will have an advantage. Rose, when she's firing on all cylinders early in the fight, she moves really well. She's going to be the more mobile fighter, and I think Miranda is going to be trying to corral her into a more physical fight. I should mention these two girls train with each other. They know each other very well. And yeah, I've listened to interviews with both girls, and I wasn't able to get much out of it. As for who thinks they have an advantage, it seems like both girls are confident. But I'm picking Miranda Maverick here because I think she will be able to make this a physical fight. I think she's the better takedown artist, and I think she's only got 2 of them. She only needs 2 of them to win this fight. But even without takedowns, I think she's stronger than Rose, certainly in the clinch. Miranda's halfway to Kayla Harrison, maybe a third of the way there, but she's still really fucking strong, and I think she'll be able to bully Rose in tight. Maverick's got 5 losses. They're all by decision. And in the UFC, those losses are to Macy Barber, which was bullshit. She won that fight. And then to Erin Blanchfield and Jasmine Jasdavicius. Erin's already pretty much a title contender, and Jasmine is pretty much a title contender as well. And Rose Namajunas is not likely to take Miranda down. Well, I can't say not likely. Rose can take down anybody. But she's not the consummate wrestler that somebody like Jasmine Jasdavicius or even Erin Blanchfield is. Yeah, they can both strike as well, but you know what I mean. And yeah, I think Miranda is winning the physical battle. I think her physicality carries her to a decision victory here. Rose, she lost a little bit of momentum that she regained back in her last fight, losing to Erin Blanchfield. But that was a 5-rounder as opposed to this, which is a 3-rounder. And in the first 2 rounds of that fight against Erin, Rose was surging. She was doing really well. And then Erin, with all of her traits, ended up getting in Rose's face and narrowly outpointing her. But she definitely outpointed her, and she even took her down, I believe, and controlled her in round 4. But yeah, look, Rose, she handled another beast of a wrestler in Tracy Cortez before that. And Tracy's the girl who beat Erin years back. But I think Miranda, even if her wrestling isn't as technically sharp as somebody like Tracy Cortez, Miranda is physically strong. She's physically stronger than Cortez, and I think she's going to give a Rose a stiffer test in that department. I may as well talk about the finish losses of Rose. She was submitted once against Carla Esparza, the Ultimate Fighter finale. I suppose it could happen again, but that was many moons ago. And she was knocked out once when she got slammed by Chad Mendes. Chad Mendes picked her up and slammed her on her head up against the clinch when Rose was hanging on a Kimura. So even though Miranda Maverick is as strong as Chad Mendes, I don't think she's likely to slam her unconscious like that. So yeah, this one I consider it a lock, and if to go the distance, and minus 520 for the over 2.5 rounds just isn't doing it for me. But Miranda Maverick at plus money is plus 210. I got her at better odds, I believe. But yeah, she is the pick and she is the play, and certainly I've got her winning by decision. The evening we have Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. My prediction for this fight is Kamaru Usman wins. Is this asshole really going for 3 underdogs in a row? Yes, he is. Kamaru Usman, I've got him winning by knockout as well. Although a decision wouldn't completely surprise me. But yeah, look, I see what you guys see with Buckley. He's surging. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. And with Usman, things have been trending the other way. He's been inactive, first of all, for almost 2 years now. And he's coming off of 3 losses. Tough losses, 2 really tight decisions. Well, one tighter than the other, I guess, but losses to Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev. And the other one, of course, was him getting knocked out by Leon Edwards, where he was about to tie or break Anderson Silva's record or whatever. And I do think now being 38 years old, having just turned 38 recently, and the inactivity and the somewhat recent knockout loss, that's a cause for concern against anybody, but certainly against Buckley, who is really fucking dangerous. And not just round 1 dangerous either. He's round 2 and 3 dangerous, and probably 4 and 5. But I still pick Usman here because I think Usman, look, I always put him at the same level as Colby Covington, and seeing the Buckley fight with Covington is one thing, but I think there are differences certainly between the two. I mean, one's black and one's white. There's that. Really, the only similarity is that they're both wrestling-based fighters, but still, they've been at the same level coming up and then into their championship series, and afterwards, I always put them at about the same level, and that would say, hey, Buckley should win after his success against Colby. But I think Kamaru Usman, he's different in a good way here against Buckley. Kamaru Usman may not be as fast as Colby Covington, but he's stronger than Colby Covington, and he's more powerful than Colby Covington. And I think his strength will help him win the wrestling battle, or at least stop Buckley from taking him down, because Buckley is a guy who mixes it up these days. He's incredibly dangerous, but he's a really athletic guy with well-rounded skills, maybe not in the jiu-jitsu realm, but, standing on the ground, and he can make it work anywhere. But here I think he's not going to be able to make it work against Kamaru Usman. I think Usman will stuff his takedowns and eventually win the wrestling battle. Buckley has been out-wrestled before. He lost to Logan Storley back in Bellator. But Usman, these days, and with his knees, I don't think he's sharp enough. Just like I didn't think Colby was sharp enough to thoroughly out-wrestle Buckley. But I still think the overall technical wrestling advantage lies in with Kamaru Usman. And I don't know why the fuck I'm talking about this. My prediction is knockout. Usman was knocked out against Leon Edwards. But Usman hits hard. He hasn't gotten too many knockouts throughout his career, but his hands have come alive lately, in the last 5 years or so, knocking out Masvidal, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns. It's probably over 5 years ago, but he's definitely proven himself at the championship level to have that kind of danger. And Buckley's a guy that I still don't trust. He's got 6 losses. 2 by decision, the other one being the Nasruddin Imavov, and of course the Logan Storley fight that I talked about. And in the Imavov fight, I was impressed with Buckley for standing tall and also outlasting Imavov. But the other 4 losses of his are knockouts. He was knocked out last against Chris Curtis, which was 3 years ago almost. and he was knocked out in round 2 there. Before that, he got caught with a head kick from Alessio Di Chirico. And, of course, Kevin Holland knocked him out in round 3 in his UFC debut, which he did a good job of making up for with this spinning back kick over Impa Kasanganay, one of the best knockouts ever. And this guy, Jackie Gosh, knocked him out as well. He avenged that loss a year or two later, beating him up and getting him out of there in round 2. But yeah, Jackie caught him with a big shot and then put him out on the ground. So his chin's always been a cause for concern, and theoretically his chin would be worse at welterweight than it was at middleweight, despite the extra 15 pounds coming at his chin from his opponent. But I still think he's looked great as of late. You know, there's been no sign of any durability issues. I remember this Andre Fialho fight, the first fight on his recent winning streak here. I remember thinking, I think I picked Buckley to win by knockout, but it was just somebody's getting knocked out here and the loser's getting cut from the UFC. That's what I had in my head with that fight. And now here, Buckley kept surging to the point where he's one fight away from a title. But Usman, I think he's being a little overlooked because of his circumstances here. I mean, you're not foolish if you're overlooking him because circumstances are not nothing. But I think he's going to fight through him. He's still got a very pretty record. He doesn't have one shit loss unless you go back to Alex Caceres' brother back here in his second fight, getting him out of there with a rear naked choke. But the guy we've known, the Kamaru Usman from The Ultimate Fighter all the way through, he's an incredible fighter who we watch grow. Again, you watch his striking develop. He was not a great striker on The Ultimate Fighter. But now I'm picking him to win this fight against the striking killer of the welterweight division, and I've got him winning by knockout. I think Kamaru, hopefully he and his team have paid attention to the chin of Buckley, and they consider that his primary path to victory. Because with Kamaru Usman and his knees, hearing him talk about his knees, I don't know if he's got 5 rounds of wrestling in him these days. But yeah, despite the circumstances and all that horse shit, and despite Joaquin Buckley, I don't think he has one first round UFC victory. I think they're all down the stretch, which I fucking love. But yeah, despite those traits from Buckley, I'm still picking Usman to win. I think he's going to be a physical problem in the way that Colby Covington was not. And I think he's going to be a dangerous problem on the feet in the way that Colby Covington was not. Colby's good at closing the distance, and he's got faster strikes. But Usman is he's a force in there. He's more forceful, and he's got heavier strikes, and I think he's going to take Buckley out, knock him out for the first time since Chris Curtis. So Usman is the pick. Usman is the play. He's sitting right now at plus 225, and the under is also the play. Under 4.5 rounds, set at almost even money. I really like that. Buckley, he is too dangerous to ever expect a decision, even though obviously it could happen. And Kamaru Usman, I think his days of grinding for a decision are over as well. I think here against Buckley, his primary path to victory is knockout, and that is my fucking pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.